Hello, folks. Welcome to Pro Trader Strategies. My name is Eric Wilkinson, and this is Spotting the Trade. I'm going to try and get you what you need to know before you go, and that's going to start out with talking about economic data, see how that impacts the overall markets, and we'll sprinkle in some geopolitical fodder in order to kind of round off the old market analysis there. So with all that being said, anyway, it's a big week ahead of us right now because we have ISM, Institute for Supply Management, here in the United States, and jobs numbers between JOLTS and the unemployment Friday, which is going to be the first Friday of the month. That's where we're going to get our unemployment data. So a big week of data pushing the markets. All right. So we've had a couple of lulls here. 3 weeks we're looking at here as a equity rally here in the NASDAQ. We haven't seen that since last fall, where we've had 3 consecutive weeks of positive gains. Could be looking at that this week, but with this economic data ahead of us, most of it is going to be in the form of manufacturing. So that's going to be a big demand driver for us, whether it's in crude oil or for just industrials, for polypropylene, metals, things of that nature. So let's take a look at the overall markets and see how you doing, Ra. See how the overall markets are doing here. Got crude oil coming off just a little bit here with the demand coming out of the manufacturing sector. We could still see this elevated into the hundreds. I don't think that we're going to migrate back down to the 80s anytime soon. I was hoping we would see that a little bit longer as the markets would start to peel back some of this onion here. But gold futures, or actually we got bonds here. Bonds finding a little bit of a bottom, something we would normally look for in a chart setup here is a candle looking like this. Now, this is the overnight session, so I think that we're going to continue to see some weakness. I would look to sell into any type of rally in the bonds. It's one of the most searched ticker symbols right now is the bonds and the notes, as folks are starting to realize, hey, I'm looking at my portfolio and the portfolio is not looking very good because of these bonds. Well, that's due to the fact that as interest rates increase, the price of bonds goes down. And what's reflective in our portfolio for value? Well, it's the price of that bond. So I've talked about this, looking at selling covered calls on any type of pop. Now, are we talking about selling calls today? No, it is moving higher, but we need a bit of a move higher on a couple of consecutive days in order to look to cover those assets with calls, doing covered calls there. Now, gold marching up against our trend channel here. We've tested it several times. Note that it is lining up with the previous all-time high of gold. So that is probably going to be an overarching point of a line in the sand as support and resistance. That's 1923. That is going to be the number that everybody remembers, and that's going to be the number that everybody is going to look to defend if they are been trading gold for any period of time, really. Then we've got Bitcoin making a pop here. I've talked about this with inflation, everything else, levers and pulleys of the markets. We should see Bitcoin and some of these other cryptocurrencies get some legs underneath them. Now, we are still at the point of controls here, right around 48,000 is going to be a trigger number that is in everybody's head, as that was a number that we had as a bone of contention, battling it over. Remember when 50,000 was kind of a target for some folks? Well, that number came up just shy. We traded up to around 4,800. That was the big number. So that's going to be something that I think folks are going to be looking at as we approach 50,000. Now, VIX, not too surprising there with VIX coming off continuously. If we continue to see gains in equities, we should probably see the VIX start coming back down into the teens. So we'll probably start to see that this week, depending on the data points and things like that. I think that the data is actually going to settle the markets, as we're going to see that we're not taking off. We're not overheating or anything like that. We're trudging along, which is actually really good. Now, NASDAQ, talked about this a couple of weeks in positive gains. Well, we're right back to the point of control. That's going to be the X factor here. I think that markets, especially like equities, are going to get very comfortable around these areas that we're currently trading. Dow Jones Industrial Average is no different here, right around 35,000. That's where the point of control is. That's where time and volume's been spent. So unless we get a real catalyst to get us moving, I think we're going to be kind of stuck in these ranges for at least the next couple of weeks. Now, E-mini S&Ps has made the gains over and above what we saw there in the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Well, folks, we talked about this before. It didn't have the gains throughout the last couple of years. So we didn't see that pullback like we did in the NASDAQ. So not really surprising that we're seeing the E-mini S&Ps make some moves and testing that value area high. So they're a little bit outside of this point of control where time and volume's been spent. So getting a little long here is what it seems like. So looking for a bit more of a correction now in the E-mini S&Ps versus a sell-off in the NASDAQ there. We break down the E-mini S&Ps, pretty quiet. Yeah, we are making some gains, make the moves to the upside. Not a whole lot of data today to go on, but throughout the rest of the week, like I said, it's action-packed really for data points there. So markets really are going to probably be relatively calm, making some adjustments here ahead of the data as folks are shoring up their positions. Something to note what's going on in the overall markets. Poly here is getting bought out by HP. So they're looking to buy, or HP, not ConocoPhillips. HP is looking to buy Poly and go under their name. So it looks like HP tried to pivot a little bit here. They're buying a software company that's similar to like Zoom and where you have online accessibility for businesses is really the angle they're probably starting to finally go. A little bit late in the game, but they're getting there anyway. So HP looking to pivot a little bit and purchase Poly coming into the markets here and going to go under their flagship name there. So HP looking to the upside. Something I wanted to talk about is Tesla is talking about a stock split. So they just recently did their split. Markets rallied again, looking at another split for Tesla. And a lot of times, especially with names like Tesla, we're going to see a rally ahead of that split. Doesn't make any sense. It's just a product of trading. Folks like to try to buy into that market before it splits. It really doesn't make any difference, but we could still see some strength here in Tesla. So risk to the upside in Tesla. Risk assessment, I'm a little bit vague on here with the equities. I would say it's pretty much a sideways trade right now. E-mini S&Ps has more correction to the downside, but NASDAQ, Dow Jones right there at the point of control. Don't see anything really making those guys really make any big moves today or tomorrow, but throughout the week as we get more and more information here as the climate of the economy, well, that could start making things move. All right. So please make sure you guys are smashing that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And finally, if you can't take that, take it easy.